Hello, my name is Michael Parker, and welcome to Antidote. Last week, while everyone was abuzz about Star Wars, another film was quietly released onto digital platforms, a film that Vanity Fair once called the very first internet blockbuster. That film, of course, Loose Change. Today, joining me in the studio are its creators, Dylan Avery and Korey Rowe. Gentlemen, welcome.
Mr. Parker, good to be here.
Good to see you again. Korey?
Thank you very much for having us on, sir. It's a great opportunity. Thank you for your time.
So tell me, let's tell the audience a little bit. The film is back out, but why was that, and who put it out, and where can people see it right now?
The new edition right now?
Yes.
Why does it exist?
Yeah.
What version of that are we telling them?
Well, the recent film that we just released last week is Loose Change 9/11. Is just kind of a return to the roots. It's a remastered version in HD, and we've released it on iTunes, Google, and Amazon Prime. And the reason that we re-released the film was a renewed interest from a distribution company, as well as a renewed interest from the public. People continue to ask for it on outlets such as Netflix, iTunes, and things of those nature. So the company's finally reached out to us and said, hey, we want to put your film back up. And we saw this as an opportunity to update it, use new footage that's been released since then, specifically from the NIST archive, give it a new ending, as well as just kind of revamp some of the different areas that we wanted to attach, and also make it a little bit shorter so that we could get it out there on some international television outlets. So it's just another edition of the film that's been remastered for current day. And the last one we released was in 2009, was in standard definition. So that's why we feel like in 2015 it's important to release it in HD minimum, and that's where we're at today.
Who's the new company that released it?
Journeyman Pictures. And what actually happened with them is that our old international distribution company, Mercury Media, which was representing Loose Change Final Cut, essentially they got bought out by Journeyman, and Journeyman was just kind of checking up on all their old properties and just saw us, and they were like, hey, wanted to hit you guys up, see if you had anything laying around. And basically we had brought Loose Change American Coup up to HD a while back, and it was just kind of, I hate to say sitting around, so I won't say it, but essentially it was waiting for a new home, and we didn't want, because we were toying around the idea, it's like, well, we could print up some Blu-rays and we could do that. We weren't really sure what we wanted to do, and at the same time, all of our physical copies were running out. So now, pretty much, if you have a DVD of Loose Change of any of the editions, it's technically a limited edition now, because there are no more.
There's no more hard copies of Loose Change.
There's no more hard copies of Loose Change. They have been either sold or given away, and
you can get them on Amazon for about $45 a copy at this point, which is strange, and was one of the reasons that we wanted to get this back out there, was to kind of nip some of that in the bud. As well, at the same time, we wanted to release new information to the public that we've uncovered and been working on since then. And since we were able to release the film in a shorter format, we were able to essentially release half the film for free, and that's what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks in social media, has been releasing short chapters specifically around the collapses of the towers, as well as the commission information. I think we're also going to get into some anthrax attacks information, and we're going to release drip feeds of the information, half for free, and then of course if you want to see the rest of the film, you can go ahead and pick it up on digital media outlets. So it's what we felt was the best way to keep our film alive, but at the same time maintaining our roots of free distribution as much as we can. The real problem was in this day and age with YouTube, I mean, you have to remember the Loose Change was originally created and distributed before YouTube even existed. With today's copyright laws on YouTube, we weren't actually able to upload our own film on our own channel because YouTube kept telling us that it was copyright blocked because of Germany's copyright laws or because this clip was uploaded over here.
Which is weird because we'd upload it and then we'd get a copyright strike from the same channel that uploaded it.
And saying that we filed it against ourselves.
Because Microcinema, our old distribution company, used to be running it, so I guess they set up a bunch of algorithms under that name. So
short version is, without Journeyman Pictures, Loose Change would have ceased to exist on the internet in a format that people could readily access it. And as we've been saying on these recent press outlets is, why is this film still relevant? It's relevant because so many people were either too young or weren't even alive when that day occurred. Today, they don't remember it. They don't have that impact that the rest of us do. And now it's just a note in a history book. So what does that history book say? And should there be an alternative version to those events? And we very much feel like that it should be.
I watched the new version last night. Clocks in at about 52 minutes. I thought the pacing was great. I enjoyed it. One of the things I've always wanted to ask you guys, and in full disclosure, I've known these guys since 2006. It's been my pleasure to be friends with you guys. But was there ever a deep throat kind of figure behind Loose Change, giving you guys some additional information?
There were a lot of people that pretended to be deep throats and claimed to be deep throats and knew deep throats. But really, I think the closest that we ever came to a deep throat was probably Peter Jennings, in terms of a person who had a real legitimate connection to that day's events and actually saw something with his own two eyes. I mean, certainly we've had information given to us over the years. We got the blueprints for the World Trade Center given to us. We got over 1,000 hours of audio that we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with. So
we were
it's
even
tricky.
at one point given military paperwork from the Air Force stating that they were given orders to shoot down Flight 93.
Whether it was real or not, we don't know. So it was like, oh, we got this paperwork about Flight 93, and
Out of everything, what we've really stuck to about getting new information out or the best information out has really just been the legwork ourselves. Our secretary back in the day did some of the most it's awesome work just getting the NIST archive.
The NORAD tapes.
The NORAD tapes released because she posed as a college student doing a research paper. And it was really just our team of people who were consistently digging into certain things, filing Freedom of Information Act requests and things of that nature, where we were able to unearth certain things. And at the same time, just some weird bumps along the road have led us to some very interesting individuals that have had some, like a plethora, an archive in different formats that still haven't seen the light of the public today.
And that's really only because you brought up the NORAD tapes. It's interesting because Vanity Fair, oddly enough, one of the writers for that publication wrote a big article about the NORAD tapes, and he made a big stink about he got all the tapes and only released like 10, 15 minutes of audio to the public. So we were like, all right, we can do you one better. So we packaged up a torrent file and we released the entirety of the NORAD tape. So every air traffic communication inside NEADS that morning was released to the public, and even people who hated us at the time had to give us credit. They were like, well, props to them for getting the information and just immediately releasing it and not trying to charge money for it or whatever, So even the people that hated us had to recognize that we were taking legitimate steps to actually get information uncovered, as opposed to the kind of keyboard commandos who just like to sit and bitch about everything.
And there are a lot of those.
There's a couple. There's a few of them.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What would you say are some of the primary misconceptions about you guys? What are some of the craziest things you've ever heard said about you?
I mean, I was called CIA by Mike Rupert. That's probably going to be number one for a while.
You're not CIA?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I would like to know where the paychecks are going if I am.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a kind of a badge of honor to be called CIA by an ex-CIA agent. I don't know, and it's funny. I don't know if I mentioned this in April or actually, I can't even remember. I don't know. I tried talking to Mike a couple times, and never really got that line of communication that I was hoping. But I don't know. It's tough to say.
Well, at one point, I saw you guys on and off. I visited you in New York. You guys have been to my home, and around 2007, things were pretty heady. I mean, you guys moved out here. There was the Charlie Sheen bit, the Mark Cuban and everything, and I mean, you guys were in a very intense whirlwind of activity at that point. Were there people coming up to you at that time saying, hey guys, you know what? I agree with you. I can't say a word.
No, honestly, for the large part, people who agreed with us wanted to say something about it. It was if you brought up the Charlie Sheen instance. So there's a person who legitimately had an opinion about it, had the stage to say something to people actually that would listen, and wanted to do something about it. He received so much blowback across from his managers, his producers, all the way to his cook and his garbage man, because all of those people are in his pocket. All those people are affected by his revenue stream. And when we were doing this film, it was also the syndication of 2.5 Men was happening at the same time. So we're sitting in Charlie Sheen's backyard trying to have a conversation with his producer and a manager about releasing a theatrical cut of Loose Change into theaters at the same time that they're trying to sell syndication of 2.5 Men, which was over a value of $1 billion. So that's $1 billion to, I believe it was ABC or CBS, whoever the company was at the time, and all these different people that were going to be affected by that. So he had massive blowback from everyone in his area that didn't want him to do this project. He said, too bad, I'm doing it anyway. Then you have another person like Mark Cuban, same thing, saw something, wanted to, had a stage to say something and actually have people listen, wanted to get behind the film. Producers, financiers, stockholders, whatever you want to call it, everyone told him not to do it. The budget for that film when we actually were out here in LA was $330,000, which is nothing. In LA, I mean, $330,000 budget, we got calls from producers asking if it was a mistake, that if they needed to add another zero to the end because it was such a small budget. And we were still having so much of a problem getting that check from these companies until the morning that it came out on Fox News that we were doing the film with Charlie Sheen, and then 2929, Mark Cuban's company, was just like, you know what, we're just going to pull it. We can't handle this much pressure. And at that point, we were done. I mean, we had been on a marathon, you have to remember, we were 22, 23-year-old kids. We were not the best ambassadors for this information. We were, I've said it before, ordinary people put in an extraordinary position, and we did the best that we could with it. Today, I'm glad that whole thing went bad.
Oh, yeah.
We had way too many cooks in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
It's way too many. We had Alex Jones, Charlie Sheen, all his people, Mark Q. It was
producers.
It was insane, and we were
all over this little internet film. And what were all of those people really interested in? Were they interested in getting the information out, or did they just see something that
they just wanted money? And the thing was, when they actually got into it with us, and they actually sat down and realized that most of the footage wasn't legally cleared, and most of the interviews we had done were in standard definition and probably needed to be reshot. And they wanted to have so much control over it. And in the end, our moral compass was always the only thing that was important was getting this film to as many people as possible, no matter what. And we wanted theatrical distribution for that because we figured it would force it into the public eye and we could get a new investigation into these events. Of course, that never happened, and it fell to the wayside as things like that do, and we never got that investigation. So that's why we still plug on today. If someone came up to us and said, hey, you can come on our show and talk, great, we're here. Let's do it. Let's talk, because there's still issues that are around today that need to be addressed. And without films like Loose Change and without people thinking freely, then we are destined to a very, very dark place.
Because, I mean, you had these presidential debates, and especially the Republican ones, where I swear I heard 9/11 more times than I think I might have heard it in 2002 or 2003. But again, Korey brings up the point of this, there's a new audience of people that, again, 9/11, what's 9/11? I don't know what that is. Let me go online and figure out what happened on that date. So there's automatically going to be a large percentage of people that, for, Loose Change might be their first impression of what happened on September 11th, which, some people might say is a good thing, some people might say is a bad thing. But it's interesting to be living in a world where 9/11 is still used as a justification, but there's people that are alive that have no idea what it means and don't know why the country that they were born into is in this position about this event that they weren't alive for. I don't know.
And furthermore, on top of that, you have people who are so adamantly against any kind of ulterior version of the events that they become those keyboard warriors, and they slam people for trying to talk about it when they actually themselves know so little about these events, and the fact that the family members are the ones that requested the initial investigation into 9/11, which led to the congressional inquiry, which led to the 9/11 Commission report, which we still don't have answers for, and we still have redacted pages for, and they get mad at us saying we're disrespecting the family members, and they know so little that they don't know that the family members are the ones that actually were the ones that caused the initial 9/11 investigation in the first place, which is an interesting irony for me, to just be yelled at by people that know so little about something that they're yelling at me for doing the exact thing that I've set out to do. It's a little confusing.
People who are actually disrespecting the family members telling us that we're disrespecting the family members, like, okay, live in your little world and we'll live in ours, and that'll be that.
It seems sometimes people are incapable of entertaining multiple points of view. I mean, they are so wedded to a single point of view that even if they disagree, they just can't critically look at several different versions of an event and understand that there's possibly some crossover and that things could be more than what they think they are. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, Dylan, and it gets back to those heady times. Because, I mean, there for a while, you guys were doing tons of interviews. You were internet celebrities. A lot of people loved you. There was a lot of these keyboard warriors you're talking about that were, wanting to take you down. But one thing I wanted to tell my audience, and I've never heard you tell this to anybody else, I wanted to ask you about it here. One time you came over to my house and you were visiting, and this might have been around 2009 or 2010 or something like that. And you said, hey, Michael, there's this, I'm going to go over to Westwood or somewhere, and meet a Saudi prince. Tell us this story.
I'm glad you asked, because I don't think I've actually ever heard this full story.
This blows my mind.
I haven't even really told this story, but essentially I was living down in San Diego, 2010. I think it might have been October, November, because I think it was shortly before I moved. And my hair was like shoulder length too, so it definitely
That's true.
Definitely had been some time. Yeah, I basically got hit up on Facebook by this guy. His name was Tarek, T-A-R-E-K. Was like, hey, I'm an assistant to a Saudi prince, and of course he gave me the name, and I tried finding him a couple times online, but I think that, I don't know, there's just so many of them, I couldn't find the right one. But essentially this guy's like, hey, there's a Saudi prince that I work for, he's, I guess, kind of a fan of your work and wants to like arrange a meeting or something. He's in LA a lot, so I don't know if you feel like driving up to LA for a day, we'll put you up for the night in a hotel. I was like, what? What is life? So my friend Blowski actually tagged along up with me because he was concerned for my safety, perhaps rightfully so.
I think so.
So he ghosted behind me the whole way up on the freeway, and yeah, it was interesting. Basically, it was 2 nights actually. I think it might have been 2 nights, because there was like the first night and then the second night where we went out to dinner. And like the second night, he like separated me from Tarek, so like he could like corner me with questions without having Tarek like jumping in and trying to be the middleman. So it was weird.
What did he want to know?
I don't know, because we sat in the hotel room and we watched Loose Change Second Edition, and there was like something would come up about like Bin Laden and being in the hospital, and it was like an ABC article was like right on the screen, and then he'd be like, wait a minute, where did you get that information? I was like, it's right there on the screen, it's ABC News right there. He's like, oh, well, you should maybe point that out a bit more, and then they like started telling me like how I could make a new edition and maybe like focusing on. I'm just like, bro, unless you're gonna pay me, like, I'm not just gonna start cutting together a new edition of the film because a Saudi prince told me to. It was just weird. Guy hits me up out of nowhere, says a Saudi prince wants to meet up. I go up there, we watch the second, and then again, it's like we get 5-10 minutes of the film, and even though I'm sitting here with a fucking Saudi prince watching it, I'm still just like, oh God, man! You know, it's 2010. You know, I don't want to watch this film again. You know, like, and it's like he's like pointing out things that may or not be right. It's like, dude, I've been down this road with, you know, random nobodies on the internet. I don't want to have to go down it with a Saudi prince now too.
Well, it was odd to me because and by the way, I loaned my man Dylan a Marc Jacobs suit because you said you're going to go see a prince. I'm like, bro, we got to get you into a suit, and. But when you came back, it seems to me like one of the things that stuck out in my mind, he said that they asked you was like, well, did you make any money? You didn't make any money? You know, kind of like, it seemed
that's
like
right.
they were very curious about if you had made any money with this. Or
That's actually right. Yeah,
which I
came
didn't,
up a couple times.
Which I thought was a little bit odd. I mean,
I don't, to this day, I'm not really sure what the point was. You know, like, I don't know if they were just feeling me out or he really was just a fan and wanted to, it's just weird.
Well, given the fact that they were Saudis, I mean, it was
weird.
It was an unusual thing.
And you know, now we have 28 pages that we're still waiting to get declassified, and there's rumors that Saudi Arabia's name might be in there. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. Just one of those things that just happens, and here I am 5 years later talking about it, and I'm still not really sure what exactly happened. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I know that, I mean, listen, during the years that you guys were doing this, I know there was ups and downs. Were there times where you both were like, you know what, I just don't need this, man. I don't need this, because you guys got criticized a lot, and
Still do.
Still do.
Still do.
And were there times that you just wanted to walk and just say, you know what, I don't need this?
That's why we did eventually.
Yeah, we eventually dropped the mic. There's no question about it. 2008, it was 2007 was pretty much started off poorly, ended even worse. That was the beginning of the economic recession. Our company, which was Louder Than Words at that time, took a pretty big hit as people's pocketbooks became tighter. First thing to go is films that you buy off the internet on DVD copies. People don't have money for that. So the sales started to slow down.
Well, and there was also all the promises that people had made to us, and therefore we made to other people in turn, which when the deal fell apart, we still tried to make good on those promises. Like our script consultant, for example, who we promised a flat sum and a percentage to, and it's like, and then when the Hollywood deal falls through, you can't expect us to still give you that, that's just...
So it went poorly. Dylan headed out to California, and myself, I went and became a snowboard instructor.
Yeah,
as you do.
Burmis went to work for Alex Jones for a bit.
That's right. Okay, so yeah, Burmis was at Alex Jones for a year or so.
Something like that. Yeah.
And shout out to Burmis, because I mean he went ahead and made a few more films as well.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah. Let's the elephant in the room. Alex Jones. Tell us a little bit about your experiences with Alex.
It's actually kind of funny now too.
Well, that's
I'm
what
on
I
a
was
short
thinking.
leash about that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Well, I mean, we obviously, you know, we're in LA, we're freelancing, we're doing a lot of stuff to pay the bills and also to, you know, kind of advance ourselves as filmmakers. I mean, essentially, we're both. I mean,
It's still small circles. I mean, we're still in tight knit circles, and Alex and Dylan and myself, and in Burmis even, we run into each other online, you know, virtually once in a while, or even in real life meetings. So there's Alex is a wonderful person. He's done a lot of good things. I don't agree with everything that he's ever done, or the way that he does it. However, at the same time, in a critical moment, Alex was there to help us when we needed him, and he did keep good on his word, and I appreciate that. And unfortunately, you know, as most deals go with and something like that, it doesn't always end the way that everybody hopes it does. But I'm sure I'll be seeing Alex again before too long.
Mm-hmm. Basically, the way I try to live my life is with as little enemies as possible.
Sure.
Even with people that I might have a good reason to be enemies with, or even a slight reason to be enemies with. But life's too short to be pissed off all the time. Great line from a great movie, American History X, and it's true. So I don't want to fight with people. I don't want to be angry at people, and I don't want there to be resentment when I walk into a room and someone else is there. I don't have time for that shit. And with that being said, yeah, it's like it's just a funny little full circle thing that's kind of happening right now. So we'll see how that kind of pans out.
That's intriguing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, again, you know, Korey's on a short leash, and I don't know what leash I'm on at all. So, not that we're not working with Alex Jones again. You know,
I'm working in other circles where we
working on a
merge.
thing that Kevin or that Alex is also.
And don't get me wrong.
I'm just gonna shut up. I'm just gonna stop.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking Alex.
No.
I listen to Alex quite a bit. I actually enjoy his work. I mean,
he's a massive muscle in the info war that's going on. I mean, he had Donald Trump on his show last week. I mean, he's a legitimate news source. A lot of people do, and he's fighting for the message. Again, I don't feel the same way about a lot of things that he does, but he's been in the game longer than me, and he's a renegade. He's been out there since pirate radio, before he was even allowed on the airwaves, and now he pays a hefty penny for it, and he's put his dues in. So I wish Alex the absolute best.
Same here. Hey, you made an interesting comment the other day, and one of the things. I didn't even want to talk about 9/11. I want to talk about this film, and I want to talk about you guys, because for me, my vantage point on this whole thing has always been where it fits in kind of this cultural landscape, because what you guys did is a huge freaking thing, and it continues to be huge. And when people ask you if it's relevant or not, of course it's relevant. God, now I'm losing my train of thought. There was a quote that you made the other night, and you said, loose change we're not in control of loose change. We couldn't stop loose change now, even if we wanted to.
Very true. Loose change definitely, specifically second edition, was remorphed into every language on the planet by individuals not in any way associated with us whatsoever. So it would go to Korea, and someone would download it and add Korean subtitles, or even revoice over it in Korean, South Korean, whatever.
It's like it got to be a game at one point where we would check Google Video and be like, all right, what language are we in today?
What country did we finally get
what new
into?
edition popped up from which country today? You know.
And it's absolutely true,
and we encouraged it. You know,
because we did. It was our free distribution marketing plan. That was take it, watch it, leave it for somebody else. So it got out there to a point where we couldn't stop it, and that was a huge matter of contention with distribution companies in 2007. Because they were like, well, why would we sell a film that's already available on the internet for free? And I don't know, why would you? So yeah, they didn't, and that basically it is. And so we've always just tried to maintain it, because people always, here's how it happens. Someone's on the internet, they're looking for some information. Here's the documentary, I watch it. Oh my God, this documentary, great. I think you should have done this. So then they write us and they tell us what we should have done. And actually, what's different about Dylan is he listens, and he's like, well, that's actually a valid point, and I'll work that in if I ever make another edition. He got enough emails like this that eventually created the second edition. And it worked because all these people saying, hey, this is what you should do, and Dylan, okay, maybe this and this and this, made a better film, which was the springboard for a lot of social media that you see today and people creating films in the same way. So you're saying earlier that there's a lot of people that are like, hey, this is new and innovative. I think what Dylan did was just put a new face on it and show people how easy it was for the everyday person to become a filmmaker, how to grab a camera and get out there and start putting that together. So all that in conjunction, I think, helped its popularity, and then it helped people create other films like it, and at the same time share our film to the point where it was just like, hey, we can't even control this anymore. It's in South Korea today, it's in China tomorrow, it's in Germany next week, and this was in Google Video too, again, before YouTube even existed, and millions and millions and millions of hit. And then again, bringing it back, we get all these emails and notes, and then we update it again, and it was just this beast that just kind of kept evolving, and we would just try to keep maintaining as new stuff was being released.
That's all it ever was, just trying to keep up with our own film.
And it is. Yeah. I mean, even today, I guarantee you right now, since we started the show, if you Google 9/11 news, something has come out about 9/11 today, or this week, that hasn't been incorporated into our film that we released on Tuesday. Yeah. Should it be? Probably. Are we going to do it? No, because then it would be Loose Change 10 Super Fighting Edition, whatever. Either way, it's a lot. We try to keep up with it. I think I've rambled on long enough.
Stole my Street Fighter analogy.
Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, the thing that has interested me about this for so long, besides just the content, is just the phenomena itself, because if this were a book or it were a record or something, I mean, you would have a massive hit on your hands, but you guys, you're the first out of the gate, you put something on this, these new platforms. People say it's been viewed 50 million times. I'll bet it's more than that.
Oh, it's, yeah.
No, there's no, you can't count.
Yeah, it's like
there's no number.
There isn't, but I think what's interesting is how many more numbers it would have had the internet been what it is today back then. Because you have people like my father, who back then, and even in up till 2010, 11, he's 55 years old. He didn't have a YouTube account. Now he's a subscriber of certain channels on YouTube.
I'm Facebook friends with your dad.
My dad. Social media has exploded to another level that we didn't see back then.
But see, here's the question: would we be more popular now, or less?
Would we be more diluted?
Would we just be a blip on the radar?
Right. So it is. Everything happens exactly the way it did, and there's nothing we could have done to change it. So we just maintain it.
First internet blockbuster.
And I think that's true. I just want to ask you this one more time, Dylan.
About the Saudi prince?
Well, no.
Okay.
So there was no deep throat that had credible information. Because you guys were the only people out there for a moment. Well, you weren't the only people, but you were the most visible people that if someone wanted to get something off their chest, they could have sent it to you, but...
It was us or Alex Jones, that was usually it.
And even when it came to us, it still went to Alex Jones.
Yeah, and often I did. Like, people would send us emails like, I was going to send this to Alex, but I decided to send it to you guys instead. Not like...
The problem,
not patting ourselves on the
problem with that is vetting information and putting out there. We've been... And it is. It's. I used this analogy the other day, but again, there's so many good things that come our way. But once in a while, if there's one bad one that screws you, then it's like a turd in a jelly jar, or I'm sorry, candy jar. You keep eating candy and knowing there's a turd in there. Eventually, you're going to stop eating it.
Eventually.
So hopefully, you would think. Okay. So at a certain point with this information, there's so much information coming in, but how can we vet it? Like how can we? The paperwork supposedly from someone in the Air Force who says that there's a serial number coming from the printer that it was printed from, and if we release that paperwork, then she'll go to jail, and like all this crazy stuff. What do you do with that?
Yeah,
when you're 22 years old and you're just like want to go out and ride your four-wheeler, and it's just like, what am I going to do with this? I don't know. I'm not going to do it. Let's just concentrate on the good information, which is we know that Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane, had no reason to come down. We knew that it was coming. We know that we did nothing to stop it, and we covered it up. So.
Well, that's it. It's over the time it becomes less about what you don't know, and more about just what you do know for a fact. But in terms of like deep throats, I mean, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of it was just people who said they had something and didn't.
Yeah.
A couple of them did pan out here and there, and there's, like I said, there's the over 1,000 hours of audio. Someone who basically like hit us up like a long time ago, and the email chain kind of started popping back up. But But it's, it's 1,000 hours of audio from 9/11, but the legality surrounding how we release it, is just, how do we even go about it? So it's like we could release segments of it, but if we release segments, then people are going to want to hear the whole thing. And if we want to, we can release all the raw data from the machine itself, and there'll be no questioning its legitimacy. But then we might enter into a bit of a legal snafu with the company that the audio technically belongs to. So.
And then
things like that.
Kurt Sonnefield's footage, which was just recently released back in 2000, I don't know what. I flew down to Buenos Aires to meet him, to get his footage directly from him, and it was supposed to be the smoking gun, and it was supposed to be this huge thing, and we get back, and it's not anything. It's just footage of Ground Zero, which is spectacular. Of course, there's one missing file we were never able to track down, and since then. But again, it's these people who say, "Oh, I have proof," and
this is the
so
smoking
I fly
gun
19
right here.
hours to Buenos Aires to meet this guy who's been kicked out of the United States for murder, and I get this footage. And I go through, we spend days going through it, and it's great as a huge historical archive, but is there, the back end of the pod sticking out or something
Is there the reason that he's been blackmailed by the U.S. government in there? We didn't see it. Does it mean it's not in there? No, but not in the footage we saw. So again, it's like, and that's another reason that eventually you just fucking give up and walk away, because you have all these, expectations. It's like, oh, we got this big break coming up. We got this big break coming up. If we can just get this big break, if we can just get this document, if we can just get this shot right here, and eventually you just give up, because it's a lot of false leads.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that
we
did. Yeah, because you look at April, you look at Barry, you look at the things the archives were able to get, and that's massive strides forward in information that wouldn't have been there without us. So for that, I'm happy.
No, we did.
But at the end, we still don't have accountability. We still don't have anybody that's been held accountable for the days. We still don't have any real answers as to anything.
And that's the problem. And that's why we're sitting here talking about it still.
Yeah. And we will for decades to come.
And it will be. But I mean, we still talk about JFK. We still talk about Gulf of Tonkin. We still talk about
because I heard someone ask you guys the other day, "Is this relevant?" Well, of course it's relevant. I mean, look, we are potentially in World War III right now.
Are people on stage using 9/11 as justification for stuff still? Then it kind of fucking matters.
Then we should still be talking about it. We should still be learning about it and still be researching it. And again, as you said, the climate of fear that we live in today as Americans is directly relatable to 9/11 and our insane foreign policy that we've enacted since then, and the wars we've started is just coming home to roost at this point.
And again, everyone wants to scream about ISIS and how horrible it is. It's just like, all right, well, everyone wants to. It's weird, they want to complain about ISIS and 9/11 in the same sentence. It's like, do you not understand how possibly your reaction to one thing might have created another, and that by reacting to this in that same way do people not fucking pay attention? It's just insane. And it's and again, I think it's just that point where at a certain point you either, go crazy and shoot yourself, or you just have to kind of stop letting the world drive you insane.
I turned my TV off in 2008, cable. I haven't had cable since 2008.
It's so nice to not have cable.
I don't watch TV, which is strange because I'm an editor of actual TV shows, because I can't handle it. There's so much ads that's just been worked into every single thing that we do. I lost my train of thought.
I read that the people that edit trailers hate movies.
Well, you know what? Let's change gears because we're winding down.
Oh, yeah.
You guys aren't just loose change. You do other things. When you were here in April, we were talking about Black and Blue. What's our update on Black and Blue?
Oh, update on Black and Blue. Man, I needed to just not look at it for a bit.
Sure.
2 years of shooting it, a couple hard months of editing it, because after I came on your show, I went out to Boston for 3 weeks for a federal trial that ended in officers walking away once again. Came back to LA, shot a couple endings, then had to take a couple months to edit and get it off to Sundance for this deadline. So now
it's done.
It's
close.
It's done. It's done. I need to just incorporate my voiceovers, and I was hoping to get these final transcripts from Boston because there was a whole loophole with them trying to charge for them, and the person trying to get a informa pauperis ruling on it. It's pretty much done. I just need to finish it, essentially.
Korey, can you talk about the thing that we were discussing earlier? I don't know if that's...
Of course, no. I mean, I got clearance on it already.
Okay. So what do you? I know you're juggling several projects.
Right now, I am. I'm working on a small passion project in the background when I can, called Innocently Violent, which is just a passion project about our current state of our minds, and how that reflects on our food supply, our climate, and things of that nature. Haven't got to work on it much lately because I'm editing Kevin Booth's new film. Kevin Booth is the director of American Drug War, How Weed Won the West, and several other successful documentaries, who is currently working on, working title is Looking for Kleptocracy, but that's going to get changed. Not a great title. So it's basically...
Fliptocracy?
Kleptocracy. See, and again, that's why we have breakdown in communication right off the bat. So it's been following the refugee crisis and ISIS throughout Eastern Europe, specifically Bulgaria, Turkey. They've gotten into Israel a little bit, Spain, into Barcelona, going into Brussels, and just trying to track individuals and stories of refugees and ISIS members who have been captured or caught, or as well as trying to cross borders. So it's a very intense, but yet still very funny film about ISIS and the refugee crisis. And if you know Kevin Booth at all in his films, they're a little bit off the cuff. And
it's a lighthearted romp with ISIS.
It's a lighthearted romp with ISIS. Wow. And it's a lot of fun. He's been around the world 5 times now, and just shooting the whole thing in 4K. It looks I tell you, some of the footage I've seen is just breathtaking. So it's a very exciting opportunity for me to work on it. And as I said, small circles. Alex Jones is in the film, and he's going on a show coming up on the 29th. So again, we're all small circles, and you got to keep it professional. Everybody's happy, and everybody's good people.
Well, man, I commend you guys. I've always looked at you as friends, but I also admire the fact that you've done what you've done, because to me, I've seen a lot of things in my time. And the rise of the film Loose Change and what you guys have done has been very inspiring to me, and I think just pretty damn cool. And so
I think it's pretty damn cool what you're doing right here, by the way. I mean,
well, thank you, brother.
I still have a couple copies of your CDs left. I mean, we used to pimp his CDs on our website and everything like that. His music has been featured in Loose Change Final Cut. And
we go way back.
You know, we shot a music video like a month ago with a guy.
All right,
a guy that looks a lot like him.
That's enough.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But anyway, man, thank you guys for coming by. I just wish you continued luck, man.
Well, thank you, and to you as well,
and you
sir.
as well, Mr. Parker.
Beautiful set, beautiful show. I've been a fan for a while. I've been watching.
Lip TV is a good place to be.
Long-time lurker, first-time participator.
Which reminds me, I wanted to say to our audience, you guys, thank you for joining me this year. As we go into the holidays, I just want to say this show and the chance to talk to people, interesting people, and the opportunity that I have here at Lip TV with Antidote, I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys watching it, because this has made this year really, really good for me. So until next time, you, me, every single one of us, we are the Antidote.